Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today is part 2 of the EX2 Beatdown Battle to get that final dupe of Misery. So part 1 was a whole bunch of really good physical or magic, or magic, blue stacking teams. Today, I've got one more of those for you, and then we've got 3 not blue focused teams that can be successful. You just need the teams and the units for it. So starting out, we're going to be using Tempest Elite, last month's meta. Again, can be good if you build a team around it. They are blue, they are physical, they are pierce focused. So it really works out. However, Trainee is not going to be the protector of, total usage here. So we're using Konosuba Protector Rimuru. If you don't have Protector Konosuba Rimuru, you could probably get away with just using Diablo because he is generic enough that, nothing is happening. Like trying to use Lumi or Violet here, you're not going to be actually buffing any of these characters. So Diablo would be your next best pick. Apart from that, maybe you use Protector Shuna. Maybe, because she's at least stacking Pierce Power. Could also be an option, at least you're getting something out of it. But if you have Rimuru, just use this. Free-to-play Geld, free-to-play Gobta, Benimaru, skill-fused Space Rimuru, OG Space Rimuru, is going to be our primary DPS because he's space and physical, and then Shuna. And we're really pretty much just banking on Shuna, because if you have a full team of Tempest Elite, it means that no matter what hand you get, you can convert it to blues. We're on a blue stacking team. That's kind of good, so let's check it out. Alright, so we brought Geld for a couple reasons. One is the turn 1 orb change, because we need those 2 oranges. His other skill is that he gives all blue orbs away to the person with the highest attack, who, in this team, as long as we have them correctly up front, is going to be Space Rimuru. So we can give all the orbs to our type advantage nuking unit. And while he's not an EX character, he's still certainly going to do a lot, just by virtue of the buffs that we're going to have available. Shuna's got guaranteed Pierce for 3 turns, plus a little bit of Pierce power. Benimaru's got the physical buff. And then Space Rimuru, if he's skill fused, he's got that 40% alt, or 40% attack buff for everybody, and the 30% alt resistance down, which is pretty good, and it's on everybody. Unlike Benimaru, who's only on one person, and it's 25%. So we're still going to use Benimaru's physical buff, it's just that his secondary effect, the alt resistance, does not matter, because Rimuru's doing more than that. If you don't have Rimuru's skill fused, don't worry about it too much. Like, just stack another turn or something, and Benimaru's alt resistance will then actually matter, so you don't need Rimuru's skill fused. Technically, you don't even really need Benimaru. If you have Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, bring him instead of Geld, and that'll work just as well, because then everybody gets a physical buff, and everybody gets fun, and, you're not restricted. The debuff, is better. I have stated during tests from last month that in an AoE setting, Rimuru's buff is better than Benimaru's physical buff, but in single target settings, Benimaru's is better than Fount of Wisdom Rimuru. But we're in an AoE setting, so it all works. And now we're already on turn 4, and the only thing we've done though this far is use Geld's orb change once, and then Shuna. Because we're always going to have a lot of points. This is a stacking blue team. And if we only use one skill to convert everything, it means that we have a lot of excess, and we're never going to actually run out here. And it's just a guaranteed full hand of blues. I mean, for how much I didn't like this team, it's all because of Trainee, right? I have stated that the characters themselves are good on their own. It's just that the team is really held back by Protector Trainee and her wonkiness. If you build a blue stacking team like this with a good stacking Protector, it will run efficiently for you. We brought free-to-play Gobta, so what we're going to do here is we're going to bring him in for Benimaru, we're going to alt-swap Rimuru's away, and then we're going to use Shuna again to change the entire green hand that Dino changed for us back to blue. And it's gonna be so fun. And we'll put the Pierce buff on. And we'll get everything else here. So here we go. Well, actually, we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna nuke. We're gonna call it good. Never mind. I use Gobta later on. So physical buff, Pierce buff, attack buff, alt resistance down. whatever stacks of Rimuru that we have. Benimaru does 133. It's not a lot. Rimuru does 115. You know, again, not too much, but it's an AoE ult. And it got us out. And we've now almost killed Daggerel. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, 115 is not quite half of their HP, but it is certainly something here. So, and now we have 207 points, and our orb chain costs 100. So, carry on. It's actually very, very easy. Very, very mind-numbing to use this team, which is why Diablo will work just as well. He doesn't stack as fast, but it's still going to work efficiently because you're still going to have a lot of points at the end of the day, and you only need to use one skill to orb change everything. So now we're going to switch off of our damage. We're going to leave Daggerel at that low HP, and we're going to start lowering the other units to a point where we're ready to nuke them down. We have an ult with Shuna, so here I think is where we take out Benimaru for Gobta, and then use his ult swap ability, which does put a little bit of pierce resistance down on the enemy. Stacks, you know, can be helpful. We're on turn 7, so we're pretty in line with everything. We're going to get a Rimuru ult here, and I think we should be fairly good after that. So let's go ahead and bring Geld in, and we're going to guarantee that we get a Rimuru ult now by sending all the orbs to him. I think Benimaru actually has higher attack, so it's good that he was in the back for that, otherwise it would have went to him. So this is going to do a lot of damage. Yeah, 12k a hit. That's hefty right there, with no other buffs really going on except the Pierce from Shuna. And now, going into turn 8, we have 2 AoE ults. Shuna has a secondary effect where she lowers Pierce resistance on the enemy, or gives us Pierce power. One of the two, I can't remember. So we'll use the orb change. We'll use the defense skill, just in case they live, and they nuke us. We won't take as much. But we're still going to full buff here. Physical buff, attack buff, ult resistance down, reapply the Pierce buff, get 2 more stacks of Rimuru, so that's another 40% ult damage, and then we're going to nuke. And we're going to win. And it was very, very simple, with, you know, our primary damage dealer being an OG release unit. Daggerel's dead. Rimuru does 227. Dino, not quite dead. Now he's dead. And we crit there. So there's that 2% natural crit chance coming in. So that was very, fairly simple. Again, you don't need Benimaru. You know, the engine of this team was Shuna, so you kind of need her. And again, if you don't have Konosuba Rimuru, use Protector Diablo. But let's move on now to not blue teams. Alright, it's time for the fun part. Vengeance. So, we are not on a blue-focused team. In a blue stage, or on a blue-focused stage that nerfs greens by 50%. So we're bringing Isis, because her buff is 50%. So we're negating that. So we're going to be running pretty much neutral greens across the board the entire fight. Now what the stage does is seal body and spirit skills, healing skills, vengeance skills. There are very specific turns where they are not sealed if your units are up front and they have the buff drop off at the correct time. So we're not really banking on that here. We just are going to use Protector Velzard, and we're just going to bring a butt ton of orb changers. Trainee is here to cut the ult damage down because she is skill fused. She gets the pierce resistance debuff on the enemy, and she also increases our ult resistance for 3 turns, which means we'll take less damage. Isis, again, is here for the orb changing and the green buffing. Water Soe, skill fused, is here for his orange orb converting and his defense and attack nerfing skill, so we can take literally like 1 damage a hit when it's active. Lumi is here for her special converting and her healing as well. And then free-to-play Aaron is here for the cheaper version of the orange converting to greens. So Isis and Aaron taking care of each color. Lumi is here to take care of the special convert. Soe is here for his defense. Trainee is here for her healing and her defense. You don't need them to be skill fused. You don't. It's very helpful, but we don't really take that much damage here anyways. So it's just nice and handy. But this does take a while, so we are going to go at quite a bit faster pace. And all we need to do is live. We just need to get a whole bunch of greens every single turn. and we just need to let them hit us, so Velzard can help stack vengeance on everybody else. And that's pretty much the name of the game. Turn 1, we're just going to send these 4 blues, because there's nothing we can do about it. If you have the big 3 fully maxed out, it will get you a protector turn 1, or turn 2, sorry. And then we can really start stacking up vengeance. This works out. You know, we've got Erin, she can change 2 of them. Awesome. And then we've got Lumi, who can come in and change those 2 orbs right there. The Isis buff is not active. You know, we haven't had a chance to use it, but we can still get a full hand of greens because we're going to use Velzard, and that will at least give us maximum points. It's not going to get us a lot of protection gauge, but it will cap us out on points because of what Velzard does is like 250% skill point gain on greens. So that easily offsets the debuff. So here, okay, I mean, the hand isn't great, but it's something. I think we go ahead and just send it. I think we'd send the Erin orbs and get them out of here. But we already got 5 stacks of Vengeance on everybody. Remember, Vengeance doesn't take effect until turn 5, so for now, we're just kind of doing a giveaway. We'll do the debuff, and then the defense buffs from Soe, and this will make sure that we take 1 damage here, and it also sets us up for next turn. When they do ult us, we're going to take less. So yeah, 1 damage across the board. We're binded in now. So, you know, maybe a misplay, but it did work out for us because we got a perfect orb change for them. And Velzard is really good because she resets all skills no matter where you are. You could be in the back. Reset. So it makes things very easy to work around. You're always going to have your skills at lowest cost if you play the game right. And here on their ults, we're taking 1 damage. Between the attack lowering, the extra defense, and the ult cut, it works out. And here is the perfect time to use Isis, because it is a guaranteed hand of free greens. So we are using that to our advantage. So we don't have to orb change here. We don't have to do anything special. We just need to use the green buff, and now we're offsetting the debuff that the enemy has on greens. And now, I mean, we're looking pretty good. It doesn't quite get us another Velzard, but we didn't have to use any orb changing here. So if we need to heal, that's coming up now. We've left Trainee and Lumi up front the entire time for turn 6, when we can actually use the body and spirit skills. So if you bring Raphael, you can use him on turn 6 if he's always been up front and he's never once been swapped to the back and missed a turn. But we're going to take advantage of that and heal everybody, because we have 2 healers, right? So we healed the front line with Lumi, we brought the other 2 units in, we healed them with Trainee. We're going to get re-locked here after this turn. We're going to get resealed, there we go, but we were able to heal. And so, you know, again, if Soe and Trainee aren't skill fused, you will take a bit more damage. But if you play it right on turn 6, you could heal back most, if not all of that damage you took, and, you know, continue on. Because now we're on turn 7, they have 24 stacks of Vengeance. They have begun, you know, to take Vengeance damage. Not a lot, but it's certainly, you know, progress, right? And we're always having Velzard active, which means that every time they hit us, every time they do an AoE ult, every time they do a counter attack on us, we are getting more stacks of Vengeance. And we're just going to focus on Dagger because it doesn't matter, right? So there's an attack, cool, there's a counter, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's 6 stacks right there. 30 stacks now, we're looking good. They're now starting to take a decent amount of damage, and we're looking at around half HP now. And we're going to reapply the buff from Trainee so we take less damage on these ults that are incoming. Full hand of orbs right here. And we don't need to use the green buff yet because it's still active for 2 more turns, as you can see. So we'll just run it. And we'll take an AoE ult and 2 single ults and maybe a few follow-up attacks too. This is a guaranteed 3 stack right there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Somewhere around there. Math. Well, they went up to 41 stacks of Vengeance, and now they're taking chunks off their HP. So we need to do like 2 more turns, and we're going to live, and we are nowhere close to dying, and we have not been this entire fight. So yeah, if you have Velzard, and you just put a bunch of orb changers around her, you can win this fight. Even though the Vengeance skills are technically sealed, as long as the Protector can do it, you're looking pretty good. So, counter, and we're up to 48 stacks. And yeah, one more turn and they're dead. We don't have to do anything this turn. We could have sent one orb and they would have died. So, and another cheeky counter, Q, because why not? But there we go. There is the Vengeance team clearing in EX2 in 10 turns. And 207, 224, 199. They killed themselves, essentially. Perfect. Love Vengeance team. Again, skill fusions aren't necessary. Just bring a whole bunch of orb changers. Bring a healer. You know, you could bring Autogram Ramers if you want. She's expensive, but if that's the only healer you got, heal up on turn 6. Just leave her in. Let's move on. Alright, continuing cheesy green teams, the idols are going to get used today. So, Rimuru, you know, stacking magic attack, passively resetting skill costs, changing every hand to green. We can definitely take advantage of that. Isis is still here to give us that buff. Tsubasa, not really that important, quite honestly. She's more here to get, you know, the mission done for 2 flashback beatdown units, because I don't think ever use her. Mariah's here for the live mode and the future hand of greens we use a few times, but we're really going to rely on Space Shinsha being just a space unit who is going to be getting attack buff, magic buff, weakness strike from Shizuka, and she has her ult buff with space resistance down, so towards the end of it, she can do fairly good damage after a lot of turns. And then Shizuka, you know, keeping us healed in case we, you know, have turns where we don't have the invincibility up, which are definitely going to happen, and her live mode. So we're also going to blast through this at, you know, double speed because this is a long segment. But, I mean, this team will do it. And Shinsha eventually does a lot of damage with her ult, even though she's not an EX character. Again, we can't do anything about turn 1, so we're just going to send the 4 blues, call it a day. But it really is just cycling. And for this team especially, it's less important that you are invincible every turn than it is invincible on the ult turns. Because, you know, that's where a lot of your damage comes in. We can take a counterattack here and there. We could take, you know, random 1s and 2s orbs. But it is very important that you are invincible on those turns that they ult you. Because it's a guaranteed AoE and a guaranteed 2 single targets. And you know, if you let them do that a couple times, you're not going to look that fun. Especially if your team isn't as fully geared up and not as high stats as me. So here, we're checking what they do in case one of them dies. And so Frey, if you kill one of them, that's not Frey, she will give everybody invincibility for 2 turns, which you don't want them to be invincible. So we're going to take her out first. Daggerel, if you kill someone else, he will give everybody guaranteed counters, which if you're invincible, does not matter. So Frey is the highest priority. Dino, not that big a deal, but you can leave him for last, he doesn't do much. But Frey is the target. So, and we also don't have the Christmas Idol Shuna, because Synergy doesn't do anything here, essentially. So we don't have anyone to swap ults away. So if you get an ult, it's being sent, right? There's no point in holding on to it. Just get it out of your hands to make more hands of greens, so you can get the maximum amount of live mode attack buff that you possibly can. Now, like here, I'm not going to use Rimuru, right? They're not ulting. We have a full hand of greens guaranteed. We're just going to use the green buff. We're going to send it. We're going to get a double stack of Rimuru, 100 points, and this sets us up for the next couple of turns where we have 2 guaranteed Rimurus, and between that and the Isis buff and, you know, full hand of greens, we can get another one going. So this is meant to help us cycle. By taking a few hits here and there, they don't really do that much damage, so you're not in complete danger. It's not like they're doing like 10k a hit or something. But now we can get live mode active, we can get the weakness strike, and we can just continue to make Shinsha more and more powerful. So by the end of it, I mean, she's going to do a lot of damage on her orbs. You know, she's getting attack buff, she's getting magic buff, she's type advantage. She's getting extra weakness strike every single time we use Shizuka, which helps her normal orbs do more. We're going to send these 3 ults, and, you know, we probably could have just used the, one of the buffs and then, like, the ult buff from Shinsha. We probably would have killed right here, but it's not that big of a deal. We're moving on to turn 8, you know, the typical kill turn. Now they have less defense. Doesn't really matter. We've been stacking so much that we're going to do fairly good damage, except where we don't have any orbs for Shinsha. But we still want to buff her, right? We still want her to get the weakness strike, the live mode. Stacking the ult resistance on a single target is cool. I actually wouldn't recommend doing it on the character you're actively hitting, because they're going to die. I would stack it on somebody else. That way, when you have an ult and you've been stacked up for 10 turns, you know that your ult is going to do a lot more damage to that one character. So, slight misplay on my part here. I should be stacking the ult resistance from Shizuka on somebody else that's not Frey, because we are continually hitting Frey over and over and over and over again. So, I mean, yeah, that's it, right? We're 9 turns in. This is an interesting hand, but they converted it for us. Turn 10. Turn 5 and turn 10, I think, is when that happens. So you can really rely on that to eliminate a lot of RNG, because we wouldn't have been able to use Rimuru to get out of that hand. We would have had to use Tsubasa's Orb Change, and then Rimuru, and then we would have been fine. Like, there's not a big problem about it, but, you know, that just made it easier on ourselves. So here, Orb Change with Isis, boom, take those 4 blues, now use this. Isis is not invincible because she's not on Pretty Sparkle, but, you know, I didn't want to do much else, so 2 units are invincible, Isis took 2 hits, big deal, right? So here, Frey is going to die, right? We're going to kill her with this 6 orb send. So now, it's up to the other 2 characters to really pull their weight and try and hurt us, which they're not going to, because Shinsha does 40k on her 2% orb, and it's only going to get stronger. It's only going to get stronger, and we're invincible. So I don't care. Dino, come at me, bro. Fight me. Oh, wait, you can't. Okay, so now, because Frey died, Daggerl has that 1 turn of guaranteed counterattacks, so we're just going to send ults, right? We don't have Rima to make ourselves invincible, but you cannot counter ults. So we saved ourselves a bit of damage there. We have taken a bit, but again, they're not doing all that much here. So the traits got us another Rimuru Protector, excellent. We'll use some buffs here. We got 3 orbs of Shinsha that gets us her ult, and we're going to send this on Dino. Now we're doing 49k a hit, because he don't have defense anymore and all that stuff. So there we go. Another full convert, free and easy. We'll live mode that, and now we're going to ult buff with Shinsha, and we're going to send her ult. And she does 449. It was really hard to see that, but she does 449,000 on her ult with that buff. So now that we know that, Daggerl's dead. We're just going to do it again. And there we go. You know, 16 turns in, sure, but we didn't really take any damage, realistically. And it was pretty simple. Even though we're on a stage that doesn't want us to use greens, we can get around it. So, there we go. The Idol team still putting in work to this day. Funny little girls they are. But let's move on to the final team. Alright, the final team for, you know, EX2 that we're going to use is the Overlord team. Again, with Isis to offset that green nerf. But Rimuru, free-to-play Nabe, Xiao Tier, as, you know, as wonky as she is, Shizu, second best unit in the game, and then Ainz for the single target nuking. We're going to get element damage from Rimuru. We've got a lot of orb changing between Nabe and Isis. We've got the ult buff and defense down with Xiao Tier, the weakness strike, which doesn't really matter here, but more importantly, the ult resistance down from Shizu, and then, again, the guaranteed crits don't matter. But the magic buff for Ainz himself will do a little bit extra damage here and there. But this is a long clip, probably going to make a few skip aheads because we're not killing on turn 8. Just like the other 2 green teams that we saw, the Vengeance and the Idols. This is going to be the same, except we're just going to take damage here. And we're just going to nuke, you know, traditionally. It's just going to take a while because, you know, we're magic. We're not space characters. Our buffs are, you know, not as powerful as other teams can be. But we do have a lot of orb changing just in Nabe alone. But Isis is still very important because we need that green buff eventually. The Despair skills are sealed, but like the Vengeance team, if you play around, you can use them on, turn 6 or something like that, and you can get a couple stacks of Despair. And if you kill Frey, you could forever use them, because she's the one that actually seals the body and spirit skills. So, again, we should be targeting Frey at this point to get her down so we can continue to use Despair, not for the actual damage itself, but for the protection gauge increase that Ainz gives. That's what's important, because between that and the Isis buff, you're getting, you know, what, 40% extra protection gauge after, you know, the debuff is said and done? That's what I care about. So we really should be focusing on taking out Frey first and foremost. Again, because of her invincibility aspect, if you kill someone else, and the ceiling of despair. As crap as it is, the protection gauge part is good. And it does help us do more damage at the end of the day, quote unquote, because of that 5% ult resistance down. But essentially, and we have Shizu here, so ults we can save, and then nuke, you know, here or there. So let's cut to our first nuke really fast. Okay, so I think this is our first nuke. We've got 2 ults here, 3 if we use the orb chain. Well, yeah, well, 2 ults and we send Isis away. So let's bring Nabe in. We can full orb change here, so we'll get another stack in, orb change, and then we'll bring Shizu in. Okay, no, we don't actually ult. Never mind. I lied. So we probably do it next turn then. But we're switching up our damage now, because I think we're gonna, you know, when I was recording this, I wanted to try and spread damage out, because I wasn't sure how much Shalltear was going to do on her EX ult. But there's the full hand of greens, so I think, yeah, this is the perfect time to actually nuke, because we don't have to do anything except use all 3 of our buffs, plus the despair, because we are unsealed again. So we're going to leave those 2 in the back. We're just going to buff right here. I think about it for a little bit. So there we go. Now we start buffing. Magic buff for Ainz, the ult buff, the defense down, the ult resistance down. Let's see how much damage we do. Let's see. 188. Ainz, 400k, took out Frey. And that's good damage right there. But the AoE, not so much. So we have a little bit extra work to do. So we will continue stacking. Because again, this stage doesn't punish you for going past turn 8, right? It's just, you know, beat it eventually. Somehow. Keep going. They're not going to magically do 1,000 damage to us every single hit, or 10,000 damage. We're not going to just instantly die for something because they give themselves 1,000% crit damage or something. It's just continue to stack. Continue doing what you need to do. And now that Frey is gone, we are free to use the despair skills every single turn, which means we can get more and more protection gauge and get more stacks of Rimuru and, you know, reset all our skills and just get stronger and stronger and stronger. So this is kind of an unfortunate hand, though, because I can't really do much about it. You know, we could bring Isis in. We're just going to use some despair skills. We're going to send the 4 Nabe orbs, I believe, after I think about it a little bit. After I think about it a little bit? Jesus Christ. Oh, we're going to send the 4 oranges. Alright, never mind. Alright, well, I mean, that works too. So, sure. We'll use Rimuru, we can reset Nabe, we can use both her orb changes, and then I think in, you know, another 2 turns maybe, we can go ahead and actually take them out. So, Isis will come in, we'll use her green buff again, we'll bring Shizu in, we'll ult swap away, and we'll call it a day. We do need... I would feel better with an Ainz ult here, but we have an EX ult with Shalltear. We have a guaranteed another hand of full greens, so now we're going to just full buff, and I believe we have enough power now to actually kill. So Shalltear, we'll slow it down a little bit, hold on. Alright. So 11 stacks of despair now, so I mean, well, 12 stacks of despair, so that's 60% ult resistance down, I think, is what that is. We'll send the Shalltear ult, and she does 293, 286, 283, or somewhere around there. So there we go. 15 turns for the Overlord team plus Isis. No Albedo to speak of, because she's god-awful, and she would not help really in this stage. But there we go. 4 more teams that can take on EX2, get you that free dupe of misery. These are not blue-focused teams at all. They're, you know, relatively recent, or just really, really good to begin with. But let me know what you guys think. That's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.